Hello friends, so today we're going to discuss the first 4 problems from the latest Ad Coder Beginner Contest 190. So let's start. The first problem is very primitive game. So in this game it's a very simple easy problem. In this problem it states that Aoki and Takahashi are playing a game such that both of them has A and B candies respectively. So Takahashi has A candies and Aoki has B candies. Now what they'll do in one operation, they can take one of their candy and eat it. Okay, but the game starts such that if C is equal to 0, Takahashi goes first, and if C equal to 1, Aoki will go first. Now whoever's the person who cannot eat his chocolate will lose. So who is the person who will win? That's the whole problem. Now as you can see, the input is ABC and C is the chance like which person starts first, and AB are the candy value. So you can easily understand that if the value of if Takahashi has more toffees than candies than Aoki, let's assume Takahashi is 1 and Aoki is 0. So Takahashi will eat and Aoki cannot eat. So obviously Takahashi will win. But it will only happen such that the Takahashi's chance is first. So okay, but it will reverse if Aoki's chance is first. Okay, so in that case Aoki is the first chance, Aoki will lose. And then if both of them has equal, so let's assume that Takahashi has 1 and Aoki has 1, so Takahashi is his first chance, so Takahashi will win. Then Aoki can also hit, but Takahashi cannot win. So you just have to think over these cases and then you just have to write the code so according to the given cases. So it's very simple. I'll show you the code part now. So as you can see in this problem statement, you take the input of A, B and C. So if C is equal to 0, which means that the first chances of Takahashi, then if the first chances of Takahashi, then Takahashi chocolate should be greater, then only Takahashi will win. So if A is greater than B, then Takahashi will win, or else Aoki will win. But if C is equal, if C is equal to 1, which means that the first chance is Aoki, so Aoki will only win if Aoki is will be having more chocolate. So if B is greater than 1, A, which means that Aoki has more chocolate, so Aoki will win, else Takahashi will win. So it's just a simple implementation problem. The second problem is you are actually given that you have to fight a monster, and for fighting a monster you have n spells. Okay, so now for fighting that monster you have n spells, but each spell can be spelled in xi seconds and it has a power of yi. Okay, but you can only hit a monster by this spell if this spell takes s or less seconds, because the monster can defend that, maybe defend that spell. So what you actually have to do here is you have n spells and you can only do a spell such that the time to implement that skill, that spell, should be less than s, and also the power of that spell should be it should be greater than d. If it's less than d, or if the time taken is more than s, then obviously that spell cannot be counted. So now you have n spells, you just have to tell that whether any one of that spell can be used to defend the monster. If any of that spell can be used against the monster will lose. So you just have to tell that whether among all of these spells any spell can be used against the monster. So you just have to check these two conditions. This is S and D. Among all the different n spells, you just have to check that whether any of the spells is following the condition such that it should be taking less than s seconds, and also its power is greater than d. If both of these conditions are fulfilled, now that spell is okay, and the answer is okay that I can use that spell to defend the monster, else not. So that's the whole code. I'll also link that code down in the description so you can check that out. The third problem is a good problem in which you are actually given that there are n dishes, okay, and there are m conditions. For so as you can assume that you have n plates in front of you and there are m conditions. Okay, the ith condition is satisfied when both the dishes AI and BI have one or more balls in them. Okay, which means that there are n plates in front of you and all the plates can have different number of balls. Okay, so now every condition has two parameters. As you can see, there are m conditions, so every condition has AI and BI, both two parameters, and each of the condition is only satisfied when both of the dishes, the AIth dish and the BIth dish, consist of one or more balls. Okay, now there are k peoples from 1 till k, and each people can put a ball in CI dish or DI dish. So they are also given that there are k people, as you can see in this problem. Now each person can either put a ball in the CIth dish or the DIth dish, any one of that dish. Okay, and then you have to just check that after each k person has put the dish, the balls in the dishes, whether what is the maximum number of conditions you can fulfill. What I mean by this is, if all the persons optimally put the number of balls in some dishes, then after some case, what is the maximum number of conditions you can satisfy? And that's the whole problem. Now what you can think over this problem is, because k is very small, k means that the number of persons which are actually as you can see, the number of persons which are actually sending this ball in 1 or 2. Okay, so they are either putting the ball in the cith dish or the dith dish. So now whenever I see a very small constraint, I always think of a brute force way, or you can use just recursion to solve this problem, because 2 to the power of 216 is very less number. Now because you always have two options, whether the person can put the ball in the cith dish or the dith dish, there are always two options. So it's 2 to the power of 16 option, and which can be easily done in a O of n, it's to the 2 or 16, which is less, so it's a less number, so you can calculate in a given time constraint. So now the second option is, why not just take any person? Okay, and now he has two options. I can either put the ball in the cith dish or the dith dish. Okay, so I just check that which of the dish has less number of balls. So let's assume that cith dish has no balls and dith dish has 1 ball. So it's always optimal to put the ball in cith dish such that every dish has 1 ball. But because you do not know the further optimal way, maybe you have put the ball in cith dish. Now maybe you have a condition in which you have both ci and di dish, both of them are 0. And now you think that, okay, I should put the ball in cith dish. But maybe further down the line, among these k persons, the other persons always want to put the ball in cith dish and no want to put in the dith dish, such that the condition might get false. I hope you understand the point. And thus it's always beneficial to do this in a brute force way, in a recursion type way, in which you can understand that in a backtracking way. You just iterate over all the possible combinations and then find out among all the possible combinations what is the most optimal combination. So what you're actually doing here is, you're defining a state. For the first person, you're telling that, okay, my first state is, so I can draw it out also. For the first person, let's assume the kth person, the first person, I have two options. I can either put in the c1 dish or in the c2 dish, or actually the d1 dish, c1 or d1 dish. Now this is the first person. Now for the second person, I can either put in the c2 dish or the d2 dish, or also it means that the first person has put the ball in the d1 dish and the second person has put the ball in c2 dish. Okay, or the first person has put the ball in d1 dish and the second person has put the ball in d2 dish. So there are 4 conditions. Now it will expand like a binary tree. And now let's assume that there are only 3 persons, which is k equal to 3. So after this we have only 8 options. Among these 8 options, we have to for each option satisfy that among each options, because it means that this option means that maybe this is c3, which means that the first person has put the ball in the c1 dish, the second person in the c2 dish, and the third person in the c3 dish. This is one optimal answer. And then among all of them, I know that these are the possible conditions. Now I have to check that how many conditions I have, because there are m conditions, how many of those conditions are fulfilled if I have put 1 ball in c1 dish, 1 ball in c2 and 1 ball in c3. The other condition can be if I put 1 ball in c1, 1 ball in c2 and other ball in d3 dish. Now among all of these m conditions, we just have to check that how many conditions are satisfied, and among all of these 8 conditions, 8 cases, we have to just always check among the so it is 2 to the power of k into m, because for each condition we have to just check these m conditions, what are the conditions which are satisfied, and among them we just have to find out what is the maximum case, what is the maximum number of conditions I can satisfy in all of these cases. And that's the whole problem. So it's just like a backtracking way. So I'll show you. I've also made a backtracking series, so if you haven't watched it, you can watch that out. So I've used the same code, somewhat like the same code in solving out this problem. So if you understand that playlist, then you can easily solve this out also. So what we're actually doing here is, we are first taking input of all of these n and m. Take the input of all the m conditions. Okay, this is k. Take the input of all the people values. So people value is bk. Then this is the OK function, which is actually sending out 0th. 0th means that we have to iterate over all the person now. So on the current person I am on the 0th person first. So this is function will start with 0. This is b, this is c, and this is a. A is actually storing out the like how many balls are there in each plate. So I have also made an empty vector which stores out how many balls are in each plate, and B is storing out actually the persons, like each person whichever he's putting in a CI dish or DI dish, and C is actually storing out the M constraints. Okay, then this is the OK function. Then in this OK function I take the input of all of them, always ensure that we should always be sending the putting an AND function, which means that we are sending the address. If you are sending out the actual copy of that vector, then it will be like multiple copying it and it can go time limit exceed. So it's always beneficial to give the address of it. Okay, now take the input of B, and my end condition, whenever at which point I have to check, at which point I have to check that okay, this is the final recurrence point, at which point I have to check that okay, I am done, and I have to check the M conditions whenever my I become equal to N, which means that I have filled the conditions of all the K people or all the N people, sorry. So when all the N people are satisfied, then after that we have to check that among all the N people, how among all the N peoples, how many conditions are satisfied. So we are just sending out that. So this is the check function, which is actually checking out among all of those plates which we have filled, how many conditions are satisfied, and this is returning out the answer. Else I have two conditions. Okay, the first condition is I can put the given ball in the CI3 dish. So this is actually storing out, the B vector is storing out that whether the C1 is storing out the first dish value, like in which plate I have to put, and the second is which plate I have to put. So if I put in the first plate, then what will I do? I will increment the plate value by 1. So because I mean that I have used the BI first, which means that I am taking that first plate index, like how many balls are there, increment by 1, and then again call this OK function with the next index, because I've used this person, the current person has put the ball in the CI3 dish. Okay, and then I will again recursively call the other function, like this function again with I plus 1 index and the whole thing again. Or else, because I've updated this out, I have to first remove this ball again, and now I have the other option is I can put this ball in the dith index. So dith index is bi.second, and I will do the same thing again. And this check function is just iterating over all the values in A vector, which is storing out the number of balls in each plate, and then checking out how many conditions are satisfied. So how I can check that? If any ball, if there is any condition, which condition means that both of these plates should have at least one ball. So both of these plates has at least one ball, which means that it should be greater than or equal to 0. Greater than 0. So if both of them are greater than 0, then the total will increase. And this total will tell you how many conditions are satisfied. So this will return by this, and I'm just maximizing it over the answer. So answer is a global variable and initialize to 0, which means that there is no condition solved, and then we have to just maximize it. So you can also link down the code in the description, so you can check that out also. The last problem is you are given an arithmetic sequence, like you have to find out how many arithmetic sequences consist of integer with a common difference of 1 and have a sum of n, which actually means that you have to find out how many sequences, arithmetic sequence, which means that they should be consecutive. So it means like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on, such that their sum is equal to n. Okay, and the common difference is 1. As you can see, the common difference is 1 because they are consecutive. So you just have to find out consecutive sequences such that the total sum of that sequence should be equal to n. And as you can see, for 12, this is one sequence, this is one sequence. As you can see, this can also go in the backward direction. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the summation of all of them is 12, and this is also 12. So how you can solve that out? Now first find out that what is actually the sum of n numbers. So you actually have to find out that as you can see, this is a consecutive series. Okay, so it always starts with some index, like some number, and then there are some n numbers such that the summation of all those n numbers is equal to this total n. I hope you understand this point. So let's assume that the total starting point is a. Now the next value is a plus 1. Obviously the first value will be a plus 1. This is a, the first index. Let's assume that I want to find out the summation of n numbers, because I want that the summation of the n numbers starting with a, the first is a, the a plus 1, then a plus 2. So I'm just generalizing it such that the summation of all of them should be equal to this capital N. This is what we are finding. We have to find out how many sequences are there such that the summation of this general sequence is equal to n. How many sequences are satisfying this condition? Okay. Now, if we somehow find out the summation of this, these are n terms. like this is capital N. I'm just finding out the n term, the small n. I'm sorry. These are small n terms, nth term. Okay, so now what you actually have to find out, let's assume that you can easily find out the summation of this n terms by using the arithmetic progression formula, but you can also do that if you take out the first, like these are a n times, so it is like a n times plus, okay, now because this is a in every term, the n terms they are a, so, and now because as you can see the other terms which are remaining is 1 2 3 4 5, so as you can see these are like summation of 1 2 3 4 5, which is just the universal formula for this is n into n plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, but because if there are n terms, the first term is 0. Okay, but so how many terms are remaining? N minus 1 term. So the summation of n terms is this, but summation of n minus 1 terms is n into n minus 1 divided by 2. You just put n minus 1 here, so it will become like this, and so the total summation on the left hand side is equal to a n plus as you can see n into n minus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so like you can multiply this on the left side, so it can become like 2an, okay, plus n into n minus 1, okay, the whole divided by 2 is equal to capital N. So as you can see, like we just have to simplify this equation. Okay, so you just, as you can see, now you can just take down this 2 on this side. So what it actually became is, and you can also take out n as a common factor because n also is here and also n is here. So as you can see, this is becoming like this, which is like n into 2a plus n minus 1 is equal to 2n. Now this is the final string. As you can see, now this is 2n, which is capital N. This is n into 2a plus n minus 1 is equal to 2n. Now what you can easily understand here is these are actually two factors, okay, and which are actually just multiple, like they are multiplied. If we multiply two factors such that it is equal to 2n, then this is actually finding out. If we just find out 1n, because the number of factors which is n, the number of n's which are satisfying this whole equation is actually the number of answers. Okay, now as you can see, we just have to find out the factors of 2n. If we find out the factors of 2n by finding, how we can find out the factors of 2n, by using the, like we can find out the factors of 2n in under root of 2n time. By I hope you understand, or you know, finding out the factors of 2n. If you find out the factors of 2n, the factors of 2n can be in this formula, like in this manner: 1 into 2n, okay, and then 2 into n, and then so on. So okay, so we just iterate from I equal to 1 and I into I less than equal to n and so on, and now it is on the same format. Okay, so let's assume that the first factor is a and the other factor is b. Okay, so now what we actually have to do here is, let's assume that we have two factors. Okay, we just iterate over the factors of 2n. If one factor is like this, we know the other factor of value of this, okay, and the other factor value is equivalent to this, and we also know that a is equal to this. So we just have to check that whether, if we assume that my one factor is equal to a, then whether the other factor should be equal to this. If the other factor is equal to this, we know that the n value is a, we know the minus 1 value, 2a is equal to b. If this equation is satisfied, if we put 2a minus this, actually this like a1 value which you can told, okay, minus 1, it should be equal to b. If this a turns out to a positive number, okay, and an integer, then this equation is satisfied and this is one valid answer. I hope you understand my point. Okay, so we just have to iterate over the values of like the factors of n and just find out that which factor is satisfying this condition. If the factor is satisfying this condition, that obviously that's the answer, or else that's not the answer. And that's the whole like point of this problem. I'll take down to the code part now. So what we're actually doing here is, because n is the input, we have capital N, but we have to find out the factors of 2n. So we just multiplied n by 2. Okay, then this is the total number of answers, how many like equations will satisfy it. So iterate over the factors, which is like we iterate over from I equal to 1 till I into I less than equal to n. So this is finding out the factors of that. Okay, so the first factor is, so how we can find out whether I is a factor, we just have to first check that like n modulus I is equal to 0. Then if this condition is satisfied, then we know that one factor is equal to I and the other factor is n by I. Okay, so now if I is like, if one factor is f1 and the other factor is f2, then how we can check that? So as you can see, if one factor is f1, the other factor is like the total, this factor is f2. So if we put here down here, so let's assume that now what we can do, if this factor is equal to f2, just take this on the left hand side. So it will become like this: f2 plus 1 minus n is equal to 2a, and n is actually equal to f1. I hope you understand that if you assume that f1 is equal to n, then f2 is equal to this factor. So this factor is equal to 2a plus n minus 1 is equal to f2. Just take down minus 1 plus n all the right hand side. So it will become like f2 plus 1 minus f1 is equal to 2a. So 2a means that this is an even number. So if this number f2 plus 1 minus f1 turns out to be even number, then obviously, like, if this is an even number, that you can easily divide this number by 2 and a can be turned out to be integer. I hope you understand the point. So that's what we are checking. f2 plus 1 minus f1, if is an even number, then we can increment my answer. Okay, so this is one factor. We can assume that my one factor is equal to, so as you can see, always when we're finding out the factors, the one factor is I, the other factor is n by I. Okay, so now first we are assuming that my one factor is I and the other factor is n by I. You can also reciprocate out that my first factor is n by I and the second factor is I. But it can also comes out to be one case in which I and n by I comes out to be the same number. In that case, we don't have to double count it out. And but if they are different, then we have to count it separately. So you can also first find out all the factors of n, and then you can do that also. But what we have to actually do in here is I can iterate over all the factors separately also. So one case can be if like one factor is I and the other factor is n by I. But if I and n by I are not same, then there is also, like, we can reciprocate this case. Now I made my the first factor is n by I and the other factor is I, and then we do the same thing. If this condition is matched, then the answer plus plus, and then the answer is like the total number of answers, the total number of satisfying condition for this problem. I hope you understand the logic and the code for all the 4 problems. If you still haven't out, you can mention in the comment box. I'll see you next one. Keep coding. Bye.